Hey, I think this is working right now, and there's gonna be some gameplay in the background, but this video is mostly just talking about game development uh, when it comes to Unity and in general game development. You're gonna be talking about some imposter syndrome as well, which is I'll explain what that is. But yeah, if you didn't know, I make video games, not for a living. I'm not even out of school, but I just make video games on my free time for fun. And I think there's some things that you should know, like for example, imposter syndrome. I see plenty of people with syndrome, and it's basically when um, you have you're using some tools, or you're using something like A Star, which is a pathfinding plugin for a lot of stuff. It's not a plugin exactly, but you get what I mean. A Star, it just makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to making AI that follows. So, it makes your life easier. And I see a lot of time, including I experience this as well, is that when you go ahead and use these tools, you feel like you're cheating the system, right? You're like, oh man, all these people are so good at this, and I have to make my own. I have to be self-sufficient in everything. Got to be, the jack of all trades. I got to do everything. I got to make my own scripts for everything. And if you like doing that, that's completely fine. But I know there's some people, like especially like me. I really like making all my own assets, and not using other people's assets. But let's not talk about me. Let's talk about game people in general. I've seen a lot of people when it comes to game development. They just feel like they're cheating the system, and that's really common, right? You really shouldn't feel like you're you're cheating your way out if you're using a pathfinding, like if you're using a pathfinding the plugin for your program, if you download a shader maybe, right? And don't even consider calling yourself an asset flipper if you download like a 3D asset or something, right? And I'm going to explain right now. So an asset flipper is an asset flipped game basically. You go on, I don't know, some website that sells like packs for 3D assets and scripts and stuff, and you just slap together a generic with all the default things. You don't do anything, right? You every So an asset flip is when basically nothing in the game is your work, right? Nothing in the simulation is your work, and I don't think that's okay. That's not okay because you're damaging yourself more than anything, because you're ruining your own reputation. You're ruining your own attitude towards yourself, and then you're like, oh man, I can't do this. But don't feel like you're cheating the system. I can guarantee you, okay? When you develop games, you use so many resources. You know, when you make games, you're trying to go easy, right? It's not that you're trying to cheat the system. You're trying to be as efficient as possible, use the resources to your advantage, right? So use reference for when you're 3D modeling, right? You can use reference. That's totally fine. That's what people do when they 3D model. They literally 3D model over reference. Don't don't feel and when you're in something as big as game development, there's so many people ranging from novice, right, from beginner to expert, and you're going to be looking at all these YouTube videos that make Unity seem like the easiest thing in the world. And I have some gripes. I'm not going to talk about those gripes, but when you see people making devlogs online about their game, you got to understand that when people are making these devlogs, they will remove any sense of struggle whatsoever, right? You will never see the true game development process in um, development logs on YouTube, and recently they've become really popular. I've noticed. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been watching more, but um, you will never see the quote unquote true essence of what game development is, because you will see the best, right? You will never see the process where the people are failing and they're frustrated and they're on the verge of quitting. They will show you what looks nice, what they've done after 22 hours of some random bug, and they've been mashing, completely trying to chop away at that bug, and then they fix it, and then they have something very nice to show. So don't feel like you're not going fast enough, you're not learning fast enough, because that's ridiculous, right? You can do it. You can totally do it. Don't view yourself as, oh, these people are so good. They've been doing this stuff for years, right? They've been doing this stuff for years. And sometimes people, when they're going ahead and making games in Unity, they've been doing programming before, or they're adults that have gone to college, taken all these classes in programming, made all these, like, you're never, you know why a portfolio is a portfolio? Because you show your best stuff out there, right? You're going to show the maximum, the quality content that you've made, right? And that's what you're going to see. So, yeah, just imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not making progress. Don't think like that, right? You are probably. And here's something that's really nasty, but is the reality that I went through as well. You probably are going to quit your game development, right? And you're going to take a break, more like quit. And you're going to think, I quit for good. I can't do this. Right? You're probably going to think that. But then maybe a month later, 2 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later, you think, man, I really actually do enjoy doing this. I want to try it again. I want to take two in a way. And then you will do take two and you'll say, you know what, I learned something and I'm going to continue doing this. So you will go back maybe eventually. Maybe you'll never go back. I don't know. That's up to you. That's what happens. And it's your choice to make. But right, you got also remember, okay, when you're playing these games by Nintendo, when you're playing these indie games, when you think indie game, you think it's one person. Sometimes that's true actually. That's one single person made that game you're playing. Like everything, they made everything. But sometimes it's they didn't make everything in the game, right? Maybe they did all of the logic and programming, and they just had someone compose the music, or had someone compose. I mean, not compose. They had someone, compose the artwork for it, and compose some art pieces, and right, that their work is not discredited. Their work is still as valid as before. I mean, just because they didn't do one thing for their project doesn't mean they're an imposter. They're a thief. Their work is still fantastic, right? And usually we'll hear indie game followed by indie game studio, and you got multiple people. You're working alone when you're starting, especially you're working alone without anyone else helping you out. As in working on the same project with you. So don't feel like you're doing the furthest from stealing in that case, right? You are, like, if something is out there. Here's my final point that I want to reiterate. That I also learned when I was doing this, and I went through the same thing. When you use Unity, right? You're using Unity. I'm talking about people who use Unity. When you use Unity, you're using a game engine. Okay? If you really want to hardcore, why don't you make your own game engine? No, but that game, no, the game engine that you just made, it's running on a computer, on an operating system on a computer that you didn't make. So, you know what? To be true, you have to, you know what? Screw it. You're gonna make your own hardware, your own operating system, and your own programming language. You're gonna reinvent computers just to make your game because you want to be original. Think about that. That's hilarious to think about because it's the truth. You are not every generation of computer scientists, computer programmers that came before you were working for you to be at the moment that you are right now. For you to have Unity, to have that resource on that computer, on that hardware, on that operating system. You didn't make any of that. And that doesn't make your project less than. It makes your project just as great or just as not great. I don't know. It's what that's for you to think. But you know, just remember, you're. It's like the slogan or whatever imposter syndrome is. Everyone is such an expert, and I have no idea what you're doing. Because you know what? You know why I have no idea what you're doing? Because you're a beginner. Of course, you don't have any idea. That's why you practice. And that's why you do it for years. You do this stuff for years, and then you master it. You finally master it. So yeah, I just wanted to pop in and make a video about that because I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people lately, talking to a lot of people that really are demeaning towards themselves and their abilities to make games, or are considering quitting because it's just frustrating for them. So yeah, have a nice day, I guess.